When the pain in my chest started tightening like someone was crushing my heart with their bare hands, the first person I thought of was my husband. After all, he was a doctor, so he would know what to do. But when I arrived at the hospital where he worked, a nurse approached me with eyes wide with panic and whispered something that froze my blood. "When the doctor comes in, do not say your real name." I had no idea that those words would save my life and reveal the monster sleeping beside me every night. But before I continue, make sure you are subscribed to the channel Elderly Stories and write in the comments where you are watching this video from. We love knowing how far our stories are reaching. The pain started during dinner. It was not gradual. It was not a discomfort that grew little by little. It was like someone had hit my chest with an invisible hammer, knocking all the air out of my lungs at once. I dropped my fork onto the plate and the noise echoed in the empty kitchen. My husband Michael was on call again. It was always like this. He lived at the hospital and I lived alone in that huge house I inherited from my parents. I tried to breathe deeply, but the pain only got worse. My vision began to blur, and the world around me started to spin. I grabbed the table, trying to steady myself, but my legs felt like jelly. I needed help. I needed Michael. With hands trembling so much I could barely hold the phone, I tried to call him. Once, twice, 3 times. Nothing. Straight to voicemail. That cold automatic voice informing me the number was unavailable. It was not the first time this happened. Michael always said it was impossible to answer the phone when he was attending to patients. But in that moment, with my life seeming to slip through my fingers, every second of silence on the other end of the line felt like an eternity. I could not wait. The pain was increasing, spreading down my left arm and up my neck. I knew this was not normal. I grabbed my purse, dragged myself to the door, and ordered a taxi through the app. My hands were sweating so much I had to try 3 times before managing to confirm the address. St. Mary's Hospital, the place where my husband worked, where I would be safe. The ride was a nightmare. Every bump, every sudden stop, every sharp turn seemed to amplify the pain. The driver kept watching me in the rearview mirror with worry etched on his face. I imagine he was afraid I would pass out right there in the back seat of his car. I was afraid of that too. When we finally arrived at the hospital, I could barely get out of the car alone. The driver had to help me, supporting me all the way to the emergency entrance. I did not even wait for him to leave. I simply stumbled through the automatic doors straight into that world of fluorescent lights, the smell of disinfectant and the sounds of beeping monitors. A nurse approached immediately. She had the tired face of someone who had worked a double shift, but her eyes were kind. Her badge said, Sarah. She helped me into a wheelchair and started asking questions. My name, my symptoms, if I had any allergies. I answered everything mechanically, my voice coming out weak and shaky. My husband works here, I managed to say. Dr. Michael Davis. He is a general practitioner. Please, can you call him? Sarah hesitated for a fraction of a second. It was so fast I almost missed it, but it was there, a flicker of something in her eyes. Surprise? Fear? I could not identify it. She just nodded and took me to an exam room. The room was small, surrounded by faded green curtains that had seen better days. Sarah helped me lie down on the narrow, cold gurney and started preparing the equipment to measure my blood pressure. I was there lying down, trying to control my breathing, when I realized she kept looking at me in a strange way, as if she knew me, as if she knew something I did not know. Then it happened. Sarah leaned in so close I could feel her warm breath on my ear. Her fingers squeezed my arm urgently and she whispered so low I barely heard her. When the doctor comes in, do not say your real name. Say your name is Anna, anything except your real name. I looked at her confused, my heart beating even faster if that was possible. What? Why? We do not have time, she cut me off, eyes wide with panic. Trust me, your life depends on this. Before I could answer, before I could ask any more questions, the curtain opened abruptly. And there he was, my husband, Michael, dressed in his pristine white coat, stethoscope hanging around his neck, that confident smile that always made me feel safe. But for the first time in 5 years of marriage, that smile gave me chills. Michael did not even look at my face. His eyes were fixed on the clipboard in his hand, checking something. Sarah stepped forward, her voice firm and professional. Patient admitted with acute chest pain, dyspnea, and sweating. Name is Anna Smith. No insurance. Michael nodded, still not looking at me. Blood pressure? 140/90. Temperature? Normal. Finally, he lifted his eyes from the clipboard, but his gaze passed over me as if I were just another patient. No sign of recognition, no flicker of concern from a husband seeing his sick wife. Nothing. It was like I was a complete stranger, and it was in that moment I realized. Sarah had put an oxygen mask on my face, a large mask that covered most of my features. My hair was tucked under an improvised cap. I looked nothing like the Emily he knew. I was just Anna, a random patient. Michael approached the gurney, but not with the urgency of a worried doctor. He moved with an unsettling calm, almost lazy. He did not check my pulse. He did not examine me. He did none of the things a doctor should do. Instead, he reached into his coat pocket, and he pulled out a small, unlabeled vial and a syringe. My blood froze. That was not right. Doctors did not walk around with medication in their pockets. They took them from the medication cart, from labeled shelves, always with strict protocols. But there was my husband preparing an injection with a liquid I did not recognize from a vial that had no identification. Before I could do anything, the phone in his pocket vibrated. Michael answered, holding the phone between his shoulder and ear while he continued preparing the syringe. And then he spoke. And what he said destroyed my world. Yes, Linda, you can relax. The poison acts fast. It will look like a natural heart attack. No one will suspect a thing. He laughed softly, a sound that gave me nausea. As soon as that fool dies, the entire inheritance will be ours. We start liquidating the assets tomorrow. Linda. He was talking to Linda. Dr. Linda Miller, his colleague at the hospital. The woman he always said was just a friend. The woman I had invited to our last wedding anniversary, who had squeezed my hand and called me lucky for having such a dedicated husband. And there he was, my husband, talking about killing me. Poisoning his own wife for money, my parents' inheritance. That was what he wanted. The properties, the stocks, the bank accounts, everything my parents had built over a lifetime and left to me. Michael had planned everything, marrying me, gaining my trust, waiting for the right moment. And that moment was now. Hot tears began to run down my face, wetting the oxygen mask. I wanted to scream. I wanted to jump off the gurney and run. But my body was paralyzed not only by the physical pain, but by the absolute shock of what I was discovering. Michael hung up the phone and approached the IV drip Sarah had prepared. With precise, cold movements, he inserted the needle into the tube, injecting that clear liquid that was supposed to be my death sentence. "Let the patient rest," he told Sarah with no emotion in his voice. "Do not allow visitors. I will be back in 10 minutes to confirm the time of death." And then he left. He simply walked out, as if he had just prescribed a common painkiller for a headache, as if he had not just injected poison into the wife he swore to love and protect. As soon as the curtain closed behind him, Sarah moved with impressive speed. She ripped the catheter from my arm, stopping the flow of the poisoned IV. My hand bled a little, but she quickly stopped it with a cotton ball. "Breathe," she whispered, eyes full of tears. "Breathe, Emily. You are going to be okay." I switched the poison for a light sedative before he came in. "What he injected will not kill you." I looked at her, unable to process. "How? How did you know?" Sarah grabbed my hand tightly. "Your father saved my daughter's life 3 years ago. He paid for her heart surgery when I had no money. I never forgot his face, and you look exactly like your mother." She wiped her own tears. I already suspected Dr. Michael for weeks. I heard conversations between him and Dr. Linda in the hallways about getting rid of his wife, about the inheritance. When you were admitted and I saw your name on the bracelet, I knew it was today. That today, he was going to try to kill you. I was in shock, but Sarah had no time to let me process. She pulled me off the gurney urgently, her thin but strong fingers gripping my arm. "We have to act fast," she whispered, looking nervously at the curtain. "Michael will be back in 10 minutes expecting to find you dead. We need to make him believe he succeeded." "How?" I managed to ask, my voice coming out shaky and muffled by the mask still covering my face. Sarah took a deep breath as if she were about to tell me something terrible. And she was. "There is a patient in the next room, a woman with no identification, homeless. She passed away about 15 minutes ago from complications of a chronic illness. Her age is similar to yours, and the body is still warm." It took me a few seconds to understand what she was suggesting. When I understood, I felt my stomach turn. "You want to switch our identities?" "It is the only way," Sarah said firmly. "I put her bracelet on you and yours on her. Michael will examine the body, declare the death, and never notice the difference. He will not even look closely at the face. He thinks you are already dead." It was crazy. It was macabre. But it was my only chance to survive. "And then?" I asked. "After he declares I died? What happens?" "You leave here. Now." Through the back door of the hospital, Sarah was already pulling me out of the room. There is an exit that leads to the trash disposal area and the communal kitchen. No one goes through there at night, and there are no cameras working in that part. You go out, take a taxi I am going to call, and disappear. But where do I go? To my house. It is small, but it is safe. You stay there until I arrive, and we figure out what to do. Everything was happening too fast. Less than half an hour ago, I had arrived at the hospital thinking I was having a heart attack. Now I was finding out my husband had tried to murder me, and I needed to fake my own death to survive. Sarah took me quickly to the room next door. There she was, the nameless woman. Her body was covered by a white sheet, but I could see the outlines. She really had a physical build similar to mine. Sarah worked fast, taking off the temporary ID bracelet with the name Anna Smith she had put on me and replacing it with one with the deceased woman's name. Then, with care and respect, she put my original bracelet, the one that said Emily Davis, on the dead woman's wrist. I looked at that body, at that woman I never knew who was now taking my place in death. I felt a wave of guilt, of sadness, of strange gratitude. "I am so sorry," I whispered to her, even knowing she could not hear me. "I promise that if I survive this, I will give you a dignified burial. You will not be forgotten." Sarah put a large hoodie on me, the hood covering my hair, and a new surgical mask on my face. "Hurry," she urged me. "You need to leave now." We went down the empty hallway, our steps muffled by the worn linoleum. With every sound I heard, the distant beep of a monitor, muffled voices coming from other rooms, my heart raced. What if someone saw us? What if Michael appeared? But luck, or maybe destiny, was on our side. We reached the back door without running into anyone. "The taxi is waiting at the end of that street," Sarah said, handing me a piece of paper with her address. "The driver is my cousin. You can trust him. Go straight there and do not leave the house until I arrive. Do you understand?" I hugged her tight, tears falling again. "Thank you. You saved my life." "Your father saved my daughter's," she said, crying too. "Now we are even." I went out the door, and the cold night air hit my face. I ran down the dark, deserted street until I found the taxi. The driver, a middle-aged man with a kind face, just nodded when I got in and drove without asking questions. Sarah's house was simple, a small construction on the outskirts, but clean and cozy. I sat on the old worn sofa, hugging my knees, trying to process everything. My husband had tried to kill me. The man I shared a bed with, laughed with, planned a future with. He had injected poison into my veins without hesitation, thinking only of the money he would inherit. The hours passed in a blur. I could not sleep. I stayed alone, sitting there, staring at the wall, mentally replaying every moment of the last 5 years, looking for signs I should have seen, signs of the monster hiding under the mask of the perfect husband. When the sun began to rise, I heard the key turning in the lock. It was Sarah returning from her shift. She turned on the old TV in the living room, and there he was, Michael, my husband. On the screen, surrounded by cameras and reporters, he was crying, genuine tears running down his face, his voice choked with emotion. He announced to the entire country that his beloved wife, Emily Davis, had passed away from a sudden heart attack in the early morning. He asked for prayers, privacy, understanding. Beside him, Dr. Linda put a hand on his shoulder in a gesture of support, her own eyes faking sadness. What a performance! What masterful acting! "He is planning to bury the body quickly," Sarah murmured, looking at the screen with disgust. "No autopsy, of course. With the death certificate, he is going to sign himself. No one will question it. And just like that, all the assets your parents left will end up in his hands." But there was a problem. A detail Michael did not know. My family's assets were not in simple accounts that could be accessed with a death certificate. My father, always cautious, had structured everything through a complex trust with access controlled by biometrics, specifically by a scan of my retina. Without me alive to authorize it, Michael could not touch a single cent, and I needed to guarantee he never found that out, at least not until I was ready to strike back. "I need help," I told Sarah. "I know someone, the family lawyer, Mr. Davis. He was my father's friend for decades. I need to speak with him." Sarah nodded. "I will get you a secure phone." "But Emily, are you sure about this? Once you contact someone, there is always a risk of being discovered." "I know," I replied, feeling a new determination growing inside me. The pain, the shock, the sadness, everything was still there, but something else was being born. Something cold, something powerful. But I am not going to hide forever. I am going to destroy Michael. I am going to make him pay for everything. 3 days after my death, I was sitting in an elegant office downtown. Mr. Davis, the old family lawyer, was sitting behind a solid mahogany desk, looking at me as if he were seeing a ghost, and in a way he was. "Emily," he whispered, still in shock, "I saw your funeral on television." "How?" Mr. Davis grew paler with every word, his fists clenching with rage on the table. "That bastard," he growled, "that scoundrel. I never liked him, you know. From the first day you brought him to meet your father, there was something fake about him. But you were so in love. I was a fool," I murmured. "No, you were a woman in love." And he was a convincing sociopath. Mr. Davis opened his laptop, but he made a fatal mistake. He did not know about the trust structure. And he still does not know? No. But he will find out soon. He already tried to access your accounts twice and was blocked. I imagine he will contact me soon, trying to figure out how to release the funds. A plan was starting to form in my mind, a risky plan but potentially perfect. "Mr. Davis, I need you to help me with something. Something big." He leaned forward, eyes shining with interest. "I am listening. I need a new identity, documents, history, everything, and I need access to the funds." "For what?" "To make Michael believe there is another heir, someone he can manipulate just like he manipulated me. And when he takes the bait..." I smiled coldly. "I am going to destroy him." Mr. Davis stayed silent for a moment, processing. Then a slow smile spread across his face. "Your father would be proud. He always said you had the same fire your mother had. We worked for hours building the perfect identity. I would be Jessica Sterling, a successful businesswoman from Chicago who had made a fortune in the financial market. Sophisticated, powerful, rich. Exactly the type of woman someone like Michael would love to seduce. But there is one other thing," Mr. Davis said seriously. For this to work, you need to change completely. Not just the name, but the appearance, the way of speaking, everything. Michael cannot recognize you in any way. He was right. In the following days, I went through a complete transformation. I cut my long hair, which Michael always said he loved, into a short, modern cut. I changed the color from light brown to a bold platinum blonde. I learned to do completely different makeup than I used to wear, more dramatic, bolder, with sharp eyeliner and strong red lipstick. Even my posture changed. Emily was sweet, submissive, gentle. Jessica was confident, authoritative, intimidating. I practiced for hours in front of the mirror, changing my voice, making it deeper and more controlled. I studied business etiquette. I learned to speak with authority, to dominate a room just with my presence. 2 months later, I was unrecognizable. Even Sarah took a few seconds to recognize me when I appeared at her door wearing a designer suit and high heels. "My God," she whispered, "you look powerful." "Because I am," I replied. And for the first time in months, I felt that was true. Mr. Davis had done his part. Through a complex web of shell companies and strategic investments, he had created a complete history for Jessica Sterling. And more importantly, he had spread subtle rumors in the medical circle about a wealthy investor who was interested in acquiring hospitals with financial problems. Hospitals like St. Mary's, the place where my husband worked. The hospital was going through a crisis. Cases of medical negligence were coming to light. Patients were suing, and investors were jumping ship. In 6 months, the place would be bankrupt unless someone with enough money appeared to save it. Someone like Jessica Sterling. The meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday afternoon. I walked into the hospital conference room as if I owned the place because soon I would. The board members looked at me with a mix of desperate hope and admiration. I was the solution to their problems, and then he walked in. Michael, my husband, the woman who had tried to kill me. He was different, thinner, with deep, dark circles. The last few months had not been kind to him, probably because he had discovered he could not access my inheritance, that all that wealth he had murdered me for was blocked and inaccessible. Michael greeted me with his most charming smile, extending his hand. "Dr. Sterling, it is a pleasure to meet you. I have heard wonderful things about your work." I shook his hand firmly, looking directly into his eyes. No sign of recognition. To him, I was just another pretty rich woman, potentially useful. "Dr. Davis," I replied, my voice a tone deeper than it used to be. "I hope we can do profitable business together." During the presentation, I watched his every move. The way he tried to impress, how he faked genuine interest in the hospital when I knew he only cared about the money. Linda was there too, playing the role of concerned colleague, shooting meaningful looks at Michael when she thought no one was looking. I made my proposal. I would invest $100 million in the hospital, but with conditions. I wanted total control of operations. I wanted a complete restructuring of the administration. And I wanted someone on the inside who could inform me about everything happening. "I need someone who knows this place inside out," I said, letting my eyes roam the room before landing on Michael. Someone dedicated, committed, someone available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to ensure my investment is safe. I saw Michael straighten in his chair, eyes shining with interest. "I want you, Dr. Davis," I continued, "as my personal assistant during this transition. In exchange, your salary will double, and all your personal debts, which I know exist, will be temporarily suspended." It was an offer he could not refuse, and more importantly, it was a trap he did not see. Michael accepted immediately without even consulting Linda. I saw her expression change, a flash of jealousy, of insecurity. Perfect. I was already planting the seeds of discord between them. "Excellent," I said, smiling coldly. "Then we start tomorrow. And Dr. Davis, do not disappoint me." When the meeting ended and everyone left, I stayed alone in the room for a moment. I looked out the window at the city down there, at the world that kept turning unaware of the drama about to unfold. Michael thought he had found his next victim, a rich, powerful woman he could manipulate, seduce, and eventually rob. But he did not know the victim was the predator, and that the game he thought he was starting had already been won by me. My first days as Michael's boss were delicious in a sadistic way. I made him run from one side of the hospital to the other, searching for trivial documents, checking inventory, standing during long meetings while I sat comfortably. Small humiliations that kept piling up, but the real torture was psychological. I installed hidden cameras in his office, in the locker room, even in his car. With the help of Sarah and a trusted technician from Mr. Davis, I transformed Michael's life into a private reality show, and what I saw gave me even more ammunition. Michael and Linda argued constantly. The money they expected had never arrived, and the tension was destroying their relationship. He blamed her for convincing him to kill his wife. She blamed him for not planning better. It was beautiful to watch, but I needed more. I needed a full confession on video from both of them. I needed something so undeniable that no lawyer, no matter how expensive, could refute. That was when I started phase 2 of the plan. Dr. Davis, I called him into my office one afternoon. We need to talk about something personal. I saw the interest light up in his eyes. Of course, he thought I was falling for his charms. I am looking for someone, I said, adjusting my designer glasses. A woman. Her name was Emily Davis. Michael froze. For a split second, his face twitched, but he recovered quickly, putting on a mask of polite curiosity. Emily? My late wife? Wait, you knew her? In a way. I approached him, walking slowly around his chair like a predator circling its prey. You see, I was making some investments with her family and recently discovered something interesting. What? His voice came out a little tense. Emily had a twin sister. Michael's eyes widened. What? That is impossible. You what? I asked innocently. Were married to her and never knew? What an interesting husband you were. He swallowed hard, trying to recover. I am just surprised. She never mentioned a sister. Because the family hid it. Inheritance issues, you know how it is. I sat on the edge of the desk, crossing my legs. Emily's twin sister, Jennifer, is returning to the city, and she has the other half of the key to access the family fortune. I saw the greed light up in his eyes. It was almost palpable. You see, I continued, the family trust required biometric access from both daughters. Emily had one half and her twin sister the other, now that Emily is dead. I paused, watching him squirm. The sister can claim everything. Billions, Dr. Davis. We are talking about billions. And why are you telling me this? He asked, trying to sound casual but failing miserably. Because the twin sister is naive, fragile, exactly like Emily was. Easy to influence. I smiled, and I thought maybe you, with your experience in winning the trust of the women in that family, could help me. It was such an obvious bait, so transparent. But greed makes people stupid. And Michael bit. When does she arrive? He asked, eyes shining. In 2 weeks. She will be staying at the Grand Hotel, room 805. I thought you would like to know. Michael could barely hide his excitement. As soon as he left my office, he was probably already planning how to seduce the imaginary twin sister. But there was a problem with his plan. The twin sister did not exist. And room 805 at the hotel? It was mine, equipped with state-of-the-art cameras and a professional audio recording system. 2 weeks later, Michael appeared at the hotel. I watched him through the live feed, sitting comfortably in another room. He was nervous, adjusting his tie, rehearsing his smile in the elevator mirror. He knocked on the door of room 805, and when the door opened, who he saw was exactly who he expected. A woman looking like Emily, but with a touch of extra innocence, dressed simply, eyes wide with surprise. It was an actress Mr. Davis had hired, a professional, and she was perfect. Dr. Davis? She said with a timid voice. Dr. Sterling said you could help me with some matters regarding my sister's inheritance." Michael walked into the room, turning on all his charm. I watched disgusted while he used the same tactics he probably used with me. The compliments, the feigned attention, the fake concern. But the actress was prepared. She led him exactly where we wanted. She started asking him questions about Emily, about how she died, about accessing the funds. And then Michael made his fatal mistake. Believing he was alone with a naive and trusting woman, believing he was grooming his next victim, he started to brag about how smart he had been, about how he had planned everything perfectly, about how the poison left no trace. "Your sister was too sweet for this world," he said with a falseness that gave me nausea. "But between you and me, she was in the way. Her money, now yours, was trapped in bureaucracy. I just accelerated the process." "You killed her?" the actress asked, faking shock, but keeping the hidden camera in her dress brooch pointed directly at him. Michael hesitated, realizing maybe he had said too much. But then greed spoke louder. If he managed to win the trust of the twin sister, the money would be his. It was necessary, he said, shrugging. And it was clean. Poison that simulates a natural heart attack. Linda got it for me. No one suspected a thing. Done. Full confession. In high-definition video with crystal-clear audio. But I was not satisfied. I wanted Linda, too. "Linda?" the actress asked. "Your colleague?" "Ex-colleague. Ex-lover, too, actually." Michael laughed bitterly. "We thought it would be easy. Kill Emily, take the money, live happily ever after." But the fool had structured everything in such a complicated way, we could not access a dime. Months of planning, a perfect murder, and all for nothing. "But now that I am here," the actress suggested, "now it is different." Michael moved closer to her, the predator surfacing again. "With you by my side, we can take it all. I know how these things work. Trust me. Trust him." The same words he told me at the altar at our wedding, the same words I, naive, had believed. The actress sent a coded message, our signal that she needed to get out. She told Michael she needed to think about all this, that it was too much to process. He agreed, but not without trying to schedule another date. When she left the room and met me in the hallway, I was shaking. Not from fear, but from rage. Pure and simple rage. "Did you record everything?" I asked. She showed me the brooch. Every word, every expression is enough proof for conviction. But there was one more part of the plan, the most delicious part. "It is time for Linda to know," I said with a cold smile, "that her ex-lover is trying to replace her." Sending the confession video to Linda was surprisingly easy. Mr. Davis created an anonymous profile and sent her the file with a simple message. "I thought you should know who you are messing with." Linda's reaction was immediate and explosive. Through the cameras I had installed at the hospital, I watched in real time as she confronted Michael in the medical locker room. The argument was epic. She screamed, accusing him of betrayal, of wanting to replace her. He tried to defend himself, saying he was only trying to get the money for both of them, but she did not believe a word. "You were going to get rid of me," she screamed. "After everything we did, after I got the poison, after I helped you plan everything, you were going to trade me for that supposed twin sister." "It is not like that," Michael yelled back. "I was trying to gain her trust for us, for both of us, but the damage was done. The trust between them, already fragile, had shattered completely. And desperate, suspicious people make mistakes. Big mistakes." It was exactly what happened 3 days later. Linda, blinded by jealousy and paranoia, decided that if she could not have Michael, no one could. And more importantly, if there was any chance of her taking the money, she needed to eliminate the competition. She needed to eliminate Jessica Sterling. She got a copy of my apartment key. Or at least she thought she got it. In reality, Mr. Davis had dropped the key accidentally near her, knowing she would pick it up. Everything was part of the plan. On the scheduled night, Linda broke into my apartment. I was not there, of course. I was in Mr. Davis's office watching everything through the security cameras we had installed. Linda entered the bedroom where there was a shape under the covers. Pillows arranged to look like a human body. She did not hesitate. With a scalpel stolen from the hospital, she attacked that shape repeatedly, tearing the covers, stabbing the pillows. And then the lights turned on. Not the normal apartment lights. It was a projector that started playing on the white wall. A video. The video from the hospital's internal security camera showing her and Michael laughing while planning my murder, discussing poison doses, talking about how they would split my inheritance. Linda stood paralyzed, the scalpel falling from her hands. Looking for someone? My voice boomed through the speakers. "Welcome to hell, Dr. Linda." She spun around, frantically looking for the source of the voice, but she was alone in the apartment. Then the bathroom door opened, and I walked out. But not as Jessica. I had taken off the blonde wig, wiped off the heavy makeup. I was back to being Emily, my true appearance. Just a little older, a little harder, but unmistakably me. Linda turned white as a ghost, literally. Her legs gave way and she fell to her knees. This is impossible," she stammered. "You are dead. I saw Michael. He injected a sedative," I corrected. "Because a smart nurse switched your poison before he entered the room. Surprise." I saw the exact moment her brain processed the truth, that all this time, all that planning, all that confidence that they had committed the perfect crime had been in vain. Worse than in vain. It had been a trap. But Jessica, she started. "It is me. It was always me. The rich businesswoman your lover Michael was trying to seduce was his murder victim returning to haunt you." Linda started to cry. The reality of what she had done, both the attempted murder and her recent attack, hitting her with full force. She tried to crawl toward the door, but I had already locked it. "No," I said calmly. "You are not leaving, not until the police arrive, which should be in approximately..." I checked my watch. 3 minutes. "Mr. Davis called them as soon as you broke into the apartment. They are going to find a feast of evidence. The scalpel in your hands, the security footage showing you attacking what you thought was my body, and of course the recordings of your conversations with Michael planning my murder. Please," she begged. "Please, Emily, I'm so sorry. It was all Michael's fault. He convinced me. No, I cut her off. Do not blame him. You are as guilty as he is. You got the poison. You planned with him. You laughed when you thought I was dead. And you just tried to kill me again, even without knowing it was me." The sound of approaching sirens filled the air. Linda covered her face with her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. When the police burst into the apartment, they found exactly what I had promised. Linda was arrested immediately, handcuffed while still crying and screaming she was innocent, that she had been manipulated. But the evidence did not lie. Linda's arrest was a headline in every newspaper. "Doctor arrested for attempted murder," screamed the front pages. But the best was still to come. Because Michael still knew nothing. He found out about Linda's arrest on TV the next day. I was in my office when he came in frantic, his face pale. "Dr. Sterling, did you see?" "Linda was arrested. She tried to kill someone." "Yes, I saw," I replied calmly, continuing to review papers on my desk. "Very tragic. I do not understand. Why would she do that? Who did she try to kill?" I lifted my eyes slowly to face him. "Me." Michael blinked, confused. "What?" "She broke into my apartment with a scalpel intending to murder me. Something about jealousy and money from what the police discovered." I leaned forward. "It seems she had a crush on you, Dr. Davis, and did not like the idea of you seducing other women." I saw the panic growing in his eyes. He was starting to connect the dots, realizing the walls were closing in. I did not know." He stammered. "She is crazy, completely crazy. I barely knew her. We were just colleagues. Liar." The word came out like a whip crack. Michael froze. "Do you think I do not know? I continued, my voice turning colder and colder. Do you think I did not discover everything? The affair, the plan, the poison. I do not know what you are talking about. Emily Davis. I let the name float in the air between us. Your wife. The woman you murdered for money. Michael turned white. How do you? Who told you? No one had to tell me. I stood up, walking slowly around the desk toward him. Because I am Emily. I saw the exact moment he understood. The shock, the horror, the disbelief, all passing across his face in rapid succession. His legs gave way and he fell into the chair behind him. This is impossible, he whispered. You are dead. I saw the body. It was not my body, I said simply. It was a woman who really died that night. A woman I gave a dignified burial to afterward, keeping the promise I made her. But you never checked closely, did you? So confident in your perfect plan, so anxious to get your hands on the money that you did not even look at the face. Michael started hyperventilating. But Jessica never existed. It was just me. The whole time. Watching you, manipulating you, making you dig yourself deeper and deeper. I took off my designer glasses. I wiped off the heavy makeup with a tissue. I took off the blonde wig. Do you recognize me now? He stared at me, and I saw the final recognition happen. His wife. The woman he had sworn to love. The woman he had tried to kill. Why? He managed to ask, voice cracking. Why do all this? You could have gone straight to the police and let you escape with a light sentence, claiming it was a crime of passion, that Linda manipulated you, that you were remorseful? I laughed coldly. No, I wanted you to feel every moment of what I felt, the betrayal, the fear, the humiliation. I wanted you to know what it is to be used, manipulated, discarded. Emily, please. Do not call me that. My voice was pure ice. You lost the right to say my name when you injected poison into my veins. The office door opened. Mr. Davis walked in, followed by 2 police officers. Dr. Michael Davis, said one of the officers, you are under arrest for the attempted murder of Emily Davis, for falsifying a death certificate, for fraud, and for medical malpractice. Michael tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The officers handcuffed him quickly, reading his rights, while he screamed he was innocent, that it was all a misunderstanding. But then Mr. Davis put a tablet in front of him. Maybe this will help refresh your memory. It was the video. The video of him confessing everything to the actress he thought was my twin sister. His voice crystal clear, admitting the murder, talking about the poison, about the plan with Linda. All the color drained from Michael's face. You set me up. We gave you rope, I corrected, and you hanged yourself. As the officers took him away, Michael turned his head one last time, looking at me with a mix of hatred and desperation. You will regret this. I am going to prove my innocence. You are going to spend the next 22 years in prison, I interrupted, if you are lucky. Because attempted murder of a spouse, premeditated with use of toxic substances. The judge will love this case. And he was dragged out, his screams of protest echoing down the hallways. I stood alone in the office, hands shaking slightly. Not from fear, not from sadness, but from pure relief. It was finally over. Mr. Davis put a hand on my shoulder. Your father would be proud. I know, I whispered, feeling tears finally well up. But they were not tears of pain. They were of liberation. The trial was quick. With all the evidence we had gathered, the videos, the audio recordings, the bank records showing suspicious transactions, Sarah's testimony about switching the poison, Michael and Linda had no defense. Their lawyers tried everything, claimed the videos were fabricated, that I had manipulated them, that it was all an elaborate trap. But technical experts proved every recording was authentic. Every word, every confession was real. I sat in the front row of the court every day watching Michael squirm in the defendant's chair. He avoided my gaze, incapable of facing the woman he had tried to murder and who was now destroying him. Linda was in an even worse state. Her lawyer had requested a psychiatric evaluation, claiming she was having a mental breakdown, and she was. During one of the hearings, she started laughing hysterically, then crying without stopping. She was removed from the room, sedated. When the time for verdicts came, the judge read every charge with a firm, grave voice. Guilty. 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 Every word was like music to my ears. Michael received 22 years, Linda 20, both without possibility of parole for the first 10 years. But I was not satisfied with just their imprisonment. I wanted them to really suffer. Through Mr. Davis, I used my influence and money to ensure Michael was sent to one of the worst prisons in the country. Not a common prison, but one for violent criminals, where a respected ex-doctor would be seen as weak, privileged, an easy target. And to make sure he never forgot what he had done, I arranged for copies of his confession video to be accidentally leaked inside the prison. Every inmate knew exactly who he was and what he had tried to do. Linda went to the psychiatric ward of the women's prison, not out of kindness, but because I knew there she would have to face her own broken mind every day with no escape. 3 months after the trial, I paid Michael a visit. The prison was everything I expected. Gray concrete walls, the smell of dampness and despair, the constant sound of metal doors slamming. Michael was brought to the visitation room looking unrecognizable. He had lost about 40 pounds. His face was gaunt and marked. His hair was starting to gray. His eyes, once so full of confidence and charm, were sunken and empty. When he saw me, he threw himself against the glass separating us, tears streaming down his face. "Emily, Emily, please, you have to get me out of here. I cannot take it anymore. They treat me like garbage. I cannot sleep. Good," I interrupted calmly, my voice cold as ice. "Now you know how I felt that night. Scared, alone, betrayed by the person I trusted most. I am sorry, I swear, I am sorry. It was a mistake, it was greed. I was not thinking straight. Forgive me, please, forgive you?" I laughed humorlessly. "No, I did not come here to offer you forgiveness, Michael. I came to give you this." I pulled a carefully folded paper from my purse and pressed it against the glass. It was a bill, a detailed list of all the financial, emotional, and psychological costs he caused me during our marriage and with his attempted murder. "This is what you owe me," I explained. "Every meal I paid for, every bill I covered, every therapy session I needed to overcome the trauma. Adding it all up, including interest and compensation for moral damages, it comes to about $3 million. His eyes widened in shock. "Obviously, you have no way to pay, so you will pay another way. With every day you spend in that cell, with every moment of suffering, consider it a down payment on your debt to me." "You are a monster," he whispered. "No," I corrected. "You are the monster. I am just the consequence." I stood up to leave but stopped at the door. "Oh, and Michael, I made sure you never receive a sentence reduction for good behavior. I have connections. So enjoy your next 22 years because you are going to serve every second." I walked out of the prison without looking back, leaving his desperate screams behind. 5 years have passed since that terrible night at the hospital. 5 years since my life was turned upside down and I was forced to rise from the ashes of betrayal. St. Mary's Hospital no longer exists, or rather it exists, but now it is called the Emily Davis Medical Center, a state-of-the-art facility dedicated to affordable treatments and quality research. I use the fortune my parents left me to make a difference, to ensure other people do not suffer medical negligence like the one that almost killed me. Sarah is the director of operations, my right arm in everything. We gave scholarships to her daughter, who is now graduating from medical school. She wants to be a cardiologist, to help others like she was helped. As for the homeless woman who saved my life by taking my place in death, I kept my promise. I gave her a dignified burial with flowers, music, and a beautiful headstone in the municipal cemetery. Her name, which I discovered later through investigation, was Rose. And every year on the anniversary of that night, I visit her grave and give thanks. Michael is still in prison. I heard from Mr. Davis that he developed severe psychiatric problems, constant hallucinations, extreme paranoia. He spends most of the time in solitary muttering alone about revenge and injustice. Some say he really went crazy. I say he is finally facing the truth of what he did. Linda is in a similar situation. The last news I had is that she is completely catatonic, sitting in silence all day with an empty gaze. Sometimes the guards say she starts laughing out of nowhere or crying endlessly. Her mind broke completely. And me? I am free, truly free. Not just physically, but emotionally. The naive and overly trusting Emily I used to be died in that emergency room. The woman who re-emerged is stronger, smarter, more cautious. I learned that trusting is important, but verifying is essential. I learned that true love does not kill you for money. I learned that sometimes revenge is not served cold. It is served meticulously, calculated, and absolutely devastating. There are moments I wonder if I went too far, if maybe I should have handed Michael and Linda to the police from the start without all the elaboration. But then I remember that night. The sensation of the poison entering my veins. The sound of my husband's voice speaking casually about my death with his mistress. The complete and total betrayal. No, I did not go too far. I went exactly as far as I needed to go. Today, while I'm on the hospital roof watching the city at sunset, I feel a peace I have not felt in years. The helicopter taking me to business meetings is on the helipad, blades spinning softly. My phone rings. It is a message from a group of female entrepreneurs I created, women who also overcame betrayals and are now building empires of their own. I smile, answering the message, and get into the helicopter. Down there in some dark place in the city, 2 ex-doctors rot in their cells paying for the sins they committed. But I do not think about them every day anymore. They do not deserve that space in my mind because I discovered something important. The best revenge is not destroying your enemies at once. It is building a life so good, so successful, so full of purpose and joy that they die slowly of envy, regret, and the awareness of what they lost. As the helicopter takes off cutting through the night sky, I look one last time at the city. Somewhere down there are other women going through what I went through, being betrayed, manipulated, discarded. For them, I leave this message. Do not be victims. Be avengers. Do not cry. Plan. Do not submit. Rise again. Because sometimes faking your own death is not the end of your story. It is just the beginning.